Okay, so let's unpack this today. We're diving into a really fascinating perspective on maybe the single most important thing parents can teach their children.
Yeah, it's quite a claim. Our source here is a blog post, and it's titled, "The Number One Greatest Thing You Need to Teach Your Children Before They Turn 13."
It's definitely compelling. You can feel the author's conviction. It's very personal. So our mission in this deep dive for you listening is to kind of pull out the core wisdom from this piece. We'll look at the argument, the why behind it, and the specifics they share about this, well, age-old moral framework.
And the way the author sets the scene is pretty powerful, actually. They start with these observations, some personal, some anecdotal from Manila.
Oh, right, the stories.
Exactly. Stories about, babies being abandoned, young teens getting pregnant, 18-year-olds in jail for drugs, kids stealing. Really tough stuff.
Yeah, paints a bleak picture.
It does. And it's against that backdrop
Yeah.
that the author states their belief very firmly.
Which is where the main point comes in, right?
Precisely. Amidst all this, the author believes the absolute greatest thing kids can learn at home before they, face the world is the Ten Commandments.
Just straight up, the Ten Commandments.
Yep. The argument is that if kids know these, they'll, and I'm quoting here, guard their hearts and mind. And they'll feel accountable to themselves and to God.
And for the parents, what's the suggested benefit for them?
Well, the idea is that parents gain confidence, maybe some spiritual guidance too. It helps ease those fears about what the author calls fearful things children should commit when they reach the age of 13 and above.
Okay, so it's about providing a moral compass early on.
That seems to be the core idea. And then the post really walks us through the author's take on these commandments, like what they emphasize.
Where it's not just listing them.
No, is their specific interpretation.
So on the basics, the moral foundations, they mention knowing stealing is bad, okay, and murder is the greatest sin. Pretty standard, maybe.
Well, yeah, but then look at lying.
Yes. That part definitely stood out.
It really does. The source says lying is a mortal sin equivalent to murder.
Equivalent to murder.
Yeah.
That's incredibly strong.
It is. It really emphasizes that children should not bear false witness against people around them. It puts truthfulness on a very, very high pedestal.
Wow. Okay. What about internal stuff? Thoughts, feelings?
Good question. The author stresses that kids will learn being envious and covetous is very dangerous. And the reasoning given is that it will start from their mind until they will take it to their heart.
So the idea that harmful actions begin as harmful thoughts or desires.
Exactly. That internal control piece is key. It has to start inside.
Makes sense. And how does this framework apply to relationships? With family, for instance?
Well, there's a big emphasis on respecting and obeying parents. It's described as essential for a long life, and so they enjoy the comfort of being loved and, importantly, understand their parents' intentions, assuming those intentions come from love.
So respect isn't just deference, it's linked to well-being and understanding within the family.
That's the connection the author makes, yeah. And then looking outside the family.
Right, like romantic relationships later on.
The source states that children taught this way will not commit adultery. The belief presented is that being faithful to one lover is the most precious thing they can give to their partners in life.
So fidelity is framed as this ultimate gift within a partnership.
A very precious thing.
Yeah, okay. And then there's the spiritual practice side, the Sabbath.
Yes, spending time with God every Sabbath is called the greatest gift God gave to humankind.
So setting aside a specific time for rest and worship.
Exactly. The post describes it as a day to, stop with all your tasks, projects, stop the toiling, worrying, stop thinking about your bills.
Like a mandatory pause button on life's stresses.
Pretty much. And instead, go to church, sing, worship, be part of a community, share testimonies, receive blessings. It sounds like this very intentional communal reset each week.
A necessary pause, as they see it.
Seems so. Then there's the priority aspect, putting God first.
Right, that came up too.
The author stresses children need to know they have to put God first in everything they do, which means they will not make anything or anyone as their idol.
No idols. So nothing should take God's place in terms of importance or worship.
Correct. Don't bow down to them or worship them because God is a jealous God. That's the phrasing used.
Okay, and this part, this had a pretty serious warning attached, didn't it?
It did. This is where it gets quite profound, maybe sobering. The text says, he punishes children because of the sins of their parents, up to the third and fourth generations.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that a bit. How does the source explain that?
It suggests that the consequences of parents' sins, their wrongdoings, don't just affect them. They cause suffering for their children, their grandchildren, even after the parents themselves are gone.
So a kind of generational ripple effect of sin and suffering.
That's the concept presented. And the author actually suggests praying for forgiveness, not just for your own sins, but also for those of your forefathers to try and break that cycle.
Hmm. That's a heavy responsibility, thinking about ancestors' actions impacting the present.
It is. It links generations in a very direct, consequential way.
And finally, what's positioned as the sort of ultimate rule?
The number one, above all else, according to the source, is that children should know that they have to love God with all their heart, and everything will just follow.
So love God and the rest falls into place. That's the capstone.
Seems to be. Love God, and presumably living by the other commandments becomes a natural consequence of that love.
The author is pretty insistent these specific rules from Exodus 20 need to be taught carefully, right? Even with later revisions or summaries.
Yes, meticulously taught. The goal is getting these rules imprinted in their heart and in their mind
Right.
before the teenage years hit.
Making them accountable, not just to parents, but primarily to God.
That's the key relationship, yeah. The belief is that these children will always feel kind of God is watching them.
Mm.
And because of that, they'll instinctively know the difference between what is wrong and what is the right thing to do, especially when they face difficult choices, when they're almost torn in every decision.
And for parents, this brings confidence,
There's
peace of mind.
confidence, yeah. Knowing that God is with them, guarding their kids with knowledge and wisdom from God.
And it loops back to Scripture at the end, doesn't it?
It does, beautifully. It ties it all to Proverbs 9:10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding.
So reverence for God is positioned as the very starting point for true wisdom and understanding.
That really frames the whole approach. It's not just rules. It's presented as a path to wisdom.
So thinking about this whole deep dive, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, this blog post offers a really powerful, very specific case for the Ten Commandments as the absolute foundation for raising children. The author's passion comes through, doesn't it? Painting this picture of kids who are morally solid, spiritually connected, and confident.
Yeah, and the emphasis on accountability is huge. It's not just about you, it's your family, it's God. And it even stretches across generations. That's quite a framework.
It really is. Deeply rooted, specific, with these profound implications.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe something for you to mull over.
How does a moral framework like this one, so specific, especially with concepts like generational consequences, the particular views on sin, how does that sit alongside or maybe even challenge current ideas about raising kids, about fostering ethics today?
Yeah, what parts of this specific approach to, instilling wisdom in young people, what parts really stand out to you?
Definitely something to think about long after we finish up here today.